everyone. It's great to be here on the podcast. I'm excited to chat and dive into whatever we're going to talk about today.
Welcome, Negronis with Nord, episode number 109. We're about done with a glass of rosé here. We're jumping right into it. There's a couple of questions this week about AI, and I thought, what better to do than to invite the robots onto the show with us? So we're going to just say hi to ChatGPT real quick. We're going to use the new conversational mode to bring the robots in on it. Hey, how are you doing today? You are on air on my podcast. Say hi.
Absolutely. Hey there, everyone. It's great to be here on the podcast. I'm excited to chat and dive into whatever we're going to talk about today. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. No, thank you for being here. You know my podcast, Negronis with Nord, formerly Drink with James, right?
Absolutely. I know it well. Negronis with Nord has definitely evolved from the old Drink with James days, and it's always fun to be part of it. So let's dive in.
You know how I generally answer questions for the audience every week? I only have two this week. What do you think is a question I should answer that the audience would find interesting and ultimately useful?
Oh, that's a fun one. Maybe a good question could be something about how to handle the constant evolution of influencer marketing. Like, what do you think is the next big shift that creators and brands should prepare for? I think your audience would probably love to hear your take in the future and how to stay ahead of the curve.
If you were going to answer it, what would you say?
All right, turning the tables on me. I love it. So if I were answering that, I'd probably say that the next big shift in influencer marketing is going to be around hyper niche communities and really doubling down on authenticity. I think we're moving away from just mass reach and more into these smaller, super engaged groups where creators are almost like trusted friends. So I'd say the advice is to really lean into those genuine connections and focus on quality over quantity. That would be my take.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. I'm always happy to help. And hey.
So,
Did you say bye?
no, sorry, I didn't say bye to her. First of all, I want to go and say I slightly disagree with her on some of that. But there's questions about how influencers should use AI. And for anyone that I feel is skeptical about it, I often just say, just try talking to it like it's a friend that you want to talk an idea out with. Sometimes I use this voice one and I throw the headphones in and go on a walk and just have a conversation with it. It records all of it. It sends you the transcripts, all of that, right? And so the way I coalesce around an idea is to talk it out loud, to try and explain it. And I have found AI to be incredibly useful in talking out my ideas, like you would an advisor. It's often said that it's less likely that you are going to be replaced by AI than that you will be replaced by someone using AI. Being an influencer can be kind of a lonely, solitary thing. There's so many ways for you to use AI to be more effective in your job, even as a creator, and it can have nothing to do with content creation, right? The ways that AI is going to impact creators' careers the most is letting you create, and not so much on the things that you don't want to do. I mean, imagine eventually, right, these things will get trained on your tone of voice and the way that you answer things and your past content, and it'll be able to answer DMs for you and comments, and you'll be able to engage with your audience more. And I also think, if we're just talking about AI and jobs real quick, I read a stat recently that before the Industrial Revolution, 80 to 90% of the world's population was involved in food production. Almost the entire globe, everyone, their livelihoods, the entirety of their life was focused on growing, harvesting, hunting, processing food. That's it. And then the Industrial Revolution completely changed that. I mean, let's see globally, about 20% of the world's population is focused on food production right now. In developed countries, America, Europe, etc., it's 2 to 5%. All right, and so to go from 90% to 2% of the global population focused on a specific job, largely because of the Industrial Revolution and all the advancements after, you have to get optimistic and think that this is going to create a lot of new opportunities. It's going to free up. Over the last 200 years, humanity has been freed from what were tedious, miserable lives full of suffering and pain into something miraculous. Honestly, if you brought a person from the 1700s to the modern world, it would be fucking heaven. It is crazy to think that in the course of even 100 years, the middle class of this country is living a life that, like, in many ways, the wealthiest people in the world 120 years ago couldn't have dreamed of. Again, we have to believe that this next technological revolution is going to create a lot more opportunity. And for influencers, it is important for you to stay on top of these tools and use them effectively. Don't outsource the core of what you do to AI. If you believe you can train an AI model to create content that's more compelling for your audience than you, then you do have to wonder what you exist for. Think of ways that you can use it to make yourself better. I'm hopeful that most of you hear this and roll your eyes and say, of course, this is how I'm using it already. But obviously you can upload any of your email drafts to AI, ask it to refine it, make it more clear, ask it for suggestions. Don't say, can you write me an email to a brand? Creation is thought. Again, we shouldn't be outsourcing our thinking to the machines, but we should be leaning on them as a proofreader, as an editor, as a spark of inspiration. Upload your communication, ask for advice. Upload your caption, ask it for advice. I often will upload something and I'll say, can you refine this, but keep my tone and my language as intact as possible, right? And it will just kind of clean up some of the flow a little bit. I could do it myself, but like I probably save 30 minutes, not having to go back and forth on it. So why don't you share in the comments ways that you all are using it? What are you using as a creator? How are you using AI to get more effective? The more we share this stuff, the less scared and ashamed people become about it. I do think sometimes people feel it's like cheating and that they shouldn't be doing it. Another quick AI question. If Meta begins using AI tools to produce content, will there be a critical mass or tipping points where bots begin selling to themselves? Look, so the internet is already 51% bots. That's search engine crawling, that is scammers, that is any number of things. Absolutely, you are already seeing bots commenting on bots' comments and talking to each other. There are many predictions that say that bot traffic could go up to 90% of the internet could become bot traffic here over the next couple of years. I've said it before, I'll say again, I think that in a world where we have more fake content, more synthetic content, more bots talking to bots, you're going to see what creators do become more important. Your ability to build a community on the internet, to stay in touch with that community and not lose them in a sea of bots is going to be increasingly valuable to brands, but also to your audience who are craving something real, who are craving some sense of actual humanity. I mean, our robot friend said that niching down and really leaning into authenticity is going to be key. And that's going to be because people increasingly trust the content they see less. My brain is trained. I am now pretty good at seeing something that it feels a little off. You Google if it's real and you see it's not, or you go to the comments and it's like it's AI, and not everyone is finally attuned to that. And certainly there are people, especially on Facebook, sharing ridiculous AI slop as if it is real. But this stuff will start to trick us soon. The lines of reality will get blurred, and the blurrier those lines get, the more inherent distrust people will get. And there's this concept of the dead internet as the critical mass of bots increase to a level where people no longer want to engage, and ultimately that's the end of the internet. I don't believe that is going to happen. I believe the internet as we know it is certainly dying. People crave connection. That is just like a central human thing. They crave that connection from other people, not from computers and robots. Maybe I will be proven wrong. And maybe in 10 years, all of us will think our best friends are an AI model. And like that, I mean, that is 100% possible. It also goes against some pretty central characteristics of what it means to be human and what makes social media great. And so I think that as the internet and the world at large becomes more fake and nebulous and untrustworthy, people will run to the places that they trust more. And you see this with even the rise of group chats, right? That like people are feeling like actually an easier way to connect with their friends is just through a group chat, no algorithms, no, it's not public. They can totally be themselves. end of the day, it is a good thing for creators if they can continue to keep a community. Already seeing this on TikTok. TikTok performance is in the fucking toilet recently. And so I think that there is a bit of a backlash against purely algorithmically driven content. Okay, what else has been going on this week?
The new Avatar Fire and Ice trailer came out. Mm-hmm. Did you watch? And can you give us your Avatar take?
So the new Avatar Fire and Ice trailer, yes, I did see it at the beginning of Fantastic Four. I was not deeply compelled. I will say I waited until like 2 years ago to see the first Avatar, which I always thought was like going to be really stupid, and it was like quite good. And I was like, wait, this is actually awesome and beautiful. And then I saw the other one in theaters and thought it was solid. Anytime James Cameron does something, it's probably worth paying attention and going to see. James Cameron, Spielberg, and Scorsese, and even the next generation, Fincher and Nolan, and all these guys are done. I'm sure we will have more. I wonder if Greta's going to be able to have the same career as a Fincher or a Nolan has had, just because the movie industry is changing so much. I saw an interview the other day with, who's the guy in Kingsman? Taron Egerton. Fucking crazy name. He was like, I was getting interviewed by someone recently, and I was surprised that the last movie I've had in theaters was 2019, Rocket Man. He's been in some big movies, but like all Netflix and Apple TV stuff since then. So he hasn't had a theatrical release in 6 years. And so, yeah, I do think that like, not my generation, but younger, right? Like Gen Z, whoever the like dominant Gen Z filmmakers are going to be, are just like absolutely not going to have the same opportunities in career that James Cameron, Spielberg, or even a Nolan, Fincher.
I wonder if the art form just dies out because all of them are just making everything for mobile anyways.
Cooler, Greta, they're probably big enough to be able to do whatever they want. And any studio will probably give them money for whatever they want to do. What was another big one that just like, I don't know that Mission Impossible is like a deeply profitable film. I mean, that's going to be really bad when Tom Cruise is gone, not making movies anymore. That's it for this week. We are running a little later. It's 7 p.m. It is almost my bedtime. And as always, like, subscribe, ask us questions. We'll answer them. We'll see you next week.
Do you want to thank your AI co-host for coming?
Yes, and thank you to my nameless AI co-host. We'll bring her back on sometime.